Hello and welcome to your fortnightly lunation video with me, Freya of Freya Astrology. Today we're going to be talking about the new moon in Aries, one of the biggest, most powerful moments of 2026 to set new intentions for our year ahead. Let's get into it. The new moon in Aries taking place on Friday the 17th of April UK time, so check and adjust the time and date for where you are on the planet, but around about Friday the 17th of April at 11:50 a.m. So just before midday on Friday in the UK, we're having this powerful new reset, primal fire energy. This is super aligned with setting new intentions, manifesting dreams, moving into our most authentic sense of self. This is very connected to releasing our inner child energy and really listening to what is important for us as individuals, as our childlike selves from many, many years ago, most likely, for those of you that are watching, at 27 degrees of Aries. And you can see here that this is not just your everyday Aries new moon. There is a huge pile up of planets in Aries right now. This isn't just the sun and moon coming together in Aries. This is Chiron in Aries. This is Saturn in Aries, Mars in Aries, Mercury in Aries, and Neptune in Aries. So here we have some amazing dignity in the sign of Aries. And if you don't know what the word dignity means, just stick around and I'm going to explain. So dignity is all about how planets like to express themselves in their most kind of primal expressions of their planetary archetype. So we take the idea of Mars, for example. Mars is initiating, its get going, its energy, its drive, its passion. It's that determination to drive ahead with something. And it loves to be in the sign of Aries, which is a Mars ruled sign. So Mars in the sign of Aries or in the sign of Scorpio is Mars acting in its most primal sense of self-expression. And this means that Mars in Aries is really like giving us a double whammy in terms of wanting to get that thing started, wanting to start that thing in the Aries part of our birth charts. And we're actually going to add a little extra onto the end of this video today. We're going to add a few horoscopes in so that you can all check and see where Aries is showing up in your birth chart. Whether you have planets in the sign of Aries or nothing in the sign of Aries doesn't mean that you don't have access to this Aries energy in your birth chart. So stick around to the end so that you can find out more about how to decipher this new moon in Aries and where to set new intentions and what kind of energy that you're working with at this new moon. We're going to talk about Aries in every single zodiac house, which is how horoscopes work. It means that if you're a Leo rising, for example, this Aries new moon is going to be in your 9th house of higher learning, spirituality, faith and belief. If you're a Cancer rising, this new moon is going to be in your 10th house of career, public roles, notoriety, for example. So we're going to get into horoscopes in a bit, but stick around. We're going to talk first about the archetypes of Aries and what this new moon really means for us. So back to dignity conversation. We've got the Mars in Aries at this new moon in Aries, which is functioning very strongly in terms of wanting to get that thing started. But what happens here is that Mars is getting frustrated. So we are meeting a wall, a limitation, a kind of not yet the go sign. You know, we talk about the gnome sometimes flipping the stop go, the red green sign round, stop go, stop go, stop go. This Mars-Saturn conjunction is the gnome holding the sign and it's just wavering on the edge. We can only see the very thin sliver, a bit like the new moon herself, which is a very thin sliver of a new beginning, a new intention. And we think about sitting on the edge of something. We're sitting on the precipice of the brand new beginning, of the change, of the manifesting of the dream. But we are unable, we're kind of stuck in this new moon moment, and we're just taking that new moon moment, like take some time during the new moon day to just sit and reflect on what is it that I want? Because the urge is going to be just take action, just do that thing, jump into this new energy without really considering the long-term consequences. And what we need to do is sit and meditate. If you don't like the word meditate, sit in silence, sit in candle gaze, sit and watch your favorite Netflix series and allow your mind to wander somewhere else, sit and listen to music. Maybe you're vacuuming. You know, this is something that comes up in my life as a domestic cleaner. When I'm vacuuming, that is usually a time when I can slip into a kind of meditative state, because I know roughly what I'm doing. There's the hum of the Hoover. It's a bit like a white noise, and that can take you into this space of, what am I wanting to birth into the new, but I'm just conceiving now. I am not bringing it into fruition at the moment. And so we get this conjunction with Saturn. So we are sitting on the edge of something. We're reaching a limitation or meeting a limitation from that Mars desire to just get going. And the thing, let's go back to the talk of dignity. The thing with Saturn in Aries is that this is a very different energy to the Mars in Aries. Mars in Aries has dignity. Mars is dignified in the sign of Aries. Saturn in Aries is known as being in its full. So you can kind of see this terminology. It can feel a little bit frustrating sometimes, and a little bit kind of fate driven, and a little bit kind of fear driven. That is never my intention when I'm sharing astrology. I don't want to come at it from a place of fear. I don't want to build up this idea of fear. I actually just want to give us a solid, grounded explanation in terms of how the ancient astrologers saw astrology, but also bring in the modern day perspective. So the idea of fall is like, oh, that just feels a bit kind of low and a bit down. You know, when we fall down, and we might reach the ground and hit it with a thud. And I think that's very much an ancient perspective. Simply, it means that when a planet, in this case Saturn, is in the sign of its full, in this case Aries, it means that we are already on the floor and the only way is up. That is the greatest, in my opinion, one of the best ways to think about a planet in full is thinking that, okay, we need to work really hard to get this planet functioning how it wants to function. Because what Aries wants to do as the first sign of the zodiac, as the baby of the zodiac, kick and scream and shout and express itself, but without feeling at all contained. And you know how it is when you feel overwhelmed with emotions, which can be quite a thing at this new moon in Aries. We are talking about the moon very connected to our feelings and the way that we want to express ourselves. And a moon in Aries is very eruptive, very quick to express anger, and also very quick to move on. It's very creative. It's very childlike. It's very innocent, but it's kind of needs some boundary. This is just pure fire, kind of chucking out fiery, passionate energy. And Saturn comes along and says, nope, that is not the way to do it. We need to add a container to your passion and your creativity, because if we add a container, like for example, if we were building a log fire in a wood burner, the wood burner is the container. We put the logs onto the fire, we build up the paper and the kindling, and we set the flame alight, and then the logs start to burn. And if we don't close the doors on that wood burner, then the flames and the smoke and everything are just going to come out into the room, and they're going to choke us. And that's kind of an analogy for where Mars and Saturn are coming together at this new moon, and kind of saying, if you want to sit in a room and dream up your most ideal situation and your most creative expression of your own manifestation, then you need to shut the doors on the log burner. Yes, you've got that fire within you. We are the flames. Mars in Aries is the flames within that wood burner, but you do need to shut the doors and allow the fire to build and build. And you do need to direct that smoke, the waste from the fire, if you like, into the chimney so that it can be expressed out of the top of the house. That is one of the strongest aspects of this new moon in Aries. The new moon, like many of the new moons that have taken place over the last 12 months, is at the very end of the zodiac sign of Aries. So we have the sun and the moon coming together in a conjunction, which is exactly what always happens at a new moon in Aries. That's what makes a new moon. The sun and the moon come together, make a conjunction. And in this case, it's at 27 degrees of Aries. So if you have any planets or angles being the ascendant, the midheaven, the IC and the DC, which at 27, between maybe 25 and 29 degrees of Aries, then this one is a super powerful new beginning in your life somewhere. Also, if you have cardinal planets or points, so this is Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, then this is also a super powerful new beginning in your life, particularly for Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn risings, as you have those cardinal angles. So cardinal energy of initiation and bringing something new into the world. Cardinal is your pins in the world, if you like. So if you take your entirety of this birth chart and it was on a silk scarf, printed onto a silk scarf, and you pin 4 corners of the circle. Circles don't have corners, but imagine that the corners are the ascendant, the descendant, always exactly opposite the ascendant, the IC and the MC. Those are your points where you're going to put your pins into the sky. And so you need there is extra focus on where those pins are holding your silk scarf birth chart to the sky. That is why if you have cardinal angles, this new moon is going to be particularly strong for you. Chiron in Aries is just 1 degree, less than a degree away from this new moon in Aries. So Chiron is also caught up in the conversation of what are we healing, what inner trauma, inner experiences from our formative years, what are they saying about how we move ahead now? What are they saying about our sense of self-worth? This is very tied to how do I feel about my own right to just exist in this world? That's a very Aries thing. Chiron in Aries is like a wounding, living with a wounding. If you have Chiron in Aries in your birth chart, then there's an energy of like, is it okay for me just to exist here in this world? And of course it is. We are expressive, creative beings of light that have come here to have a human experience. Of course, you are welcome. And this Chiron here is coming along and saying, now is the time for the healing to really begin. Think about yourself, direct that Chiron healing energy in towards yourself and start to gradually take a look at some of those things. And of course, if you are suffering in any way whatsoever, then please, seek out professional advice. So as with any lunation, we're going to think about the ruling planet of the lunation. So in this case, this new moon in Aries. Aries is a zodiac sign ruled by Mars, and we have already talked about the fact that Mars has a lot of power in this new moon. Mars really wants to get ahead. It wants to start the thing. It's not thinking about the long term, but Saturn comes along here very close in a conjunction with Mars, the ruling planet of this new moon, and says, actually, we can think about the long term. If you can just manage to shut those wood burner doors and direct the flames up the chimney, then we can really have long-term lasting success with this brand new beginning energy that we are forging our own fire of destiny. That's what this new moon in Aries is all about. We have also got very close to Mars at the point of this new moon, Mercury now in Aries. So Mercury is allowing us to bring words, bring ideas, bring our own consciousness into the story of this new beginning. We're able to write down our ideas. We are able to journal around this new moon. We are able to express from our gut. We might find that actually we want to be writing with fire. How can we write with fire? It makes me think about writing a letter to our childhood selves and then putting it into the wood burner, shutting the doors and allowing that letter of welcome and honoring and healing and gratitude for your childhood self, allowing them to come and join your present day body of parenthood, of we're thinking about the idea of how did we need to be parented, how weren't we parented when we were in childhood. How is that joining with our current day story about allowing ourselves to leap off this precipice, and going back to that idea of the stop go sign being on the edge and the new moon being the very small slither of light that we have at the moment. We are on the edge. What is that permission slip that we need from the universe, from the divine, from God, however you want to term it? What's the permission slip that we need from with us? And that permission slip is within us. It is within all of us. And this Chiron in Aries is saying, it's okay now. It's okay to take that healing step, because all of this fire is going to get something really started, and it's going to be exciting and enthusiastic. We've also got Neptune in the sign of Aries. So this is very connected to intuition, dreams. If you are trying to build a spiritual community, if you are trying to increase your psychic awareness, if you are trying to embrace your artistic self, just get started. Just use this Aries fire to really start the dream. But remembering that we need a container. So perhaps Neptune in Aries, as the artist, as the musician, gets a new notebook and starts gathering ideas together, but is not yet being birthed into the new world as a new music album, for example, or as an art exhibition. It is simply gathering the ideas for the beginning point. And that, again, is a great reminder for what happens at a new moon. We're just getting the inspiration now. We are not putting out into the world. And again, Saturn is confirming this for us in the sign of Aries, saying, slow down, think about the longer term. But we are thinking, what are the ideas? How are we going to do this? How are we going to make it happen? And there is a sense of energy which can now build, having moved through a period of time over the last week at least, where there's been a lot of kind of Pisces letting go energy. And also we have got the North Node in Pisces now, which is still wrapping up old soul contracts, old areas of our lives where we have been emoting, where we have been overgiving and undervalued. And that North Node is not going to change into the sign of Aquarius until the summer. So yes, we have got this new beginning energy, but which is much more active in the summer when the North Node moves into Aquarius, and we receive a traditional aspect in astrology from the North Node, as opposed to no aspect, because Pisces and Aries do not make a traditional aspect to each other, whereas Aquarius and Aries make a sextile, which is an energy of, is the energy of Venus, which is the energy of adding creative value and energy to all of this Aries action. So we are dreaming up in this springtime, dreaming up this idea, which will start to come more into fruition in the summer months, when we start to get the eclipses in Aquarius and Leo, once the North Node has changed into Aquarius and the South Node has moved into Leo. We are also this month gearing up for a sign change from Uranus in Taurus moving into the sign of Gemini. This is taking place on the 26th of April, and this is bringing in a brand new Uranus energy era. We had a little taster of it last summer, and now we are going to be moving fully into Uranus in Gemini for the next 8 years. And this is really shaking up our sense of a higher mind, our ability to connect with ideas which are outside of text and classical communication formats. Uranus is where we will not be hemmed in. Uranus is a sudden desire for freedom and self-expression and get me out of here. And Uranus in the sign of Taurus is shaking up this area of our lives where we don't like to experience the change, because Taurus is a fixed earth sign where it likes to keep everything the same. We like to sit on the same sofa every day. We like to use the same mug for our coffee in the morning. We like the same cereal bowl. We like the same route to work. And it's shaking all of those things open, saying, no, there's an option here of doing things differently, and you need to embrace that energy. So Uranus is also very volatile at the point of this new moon. Interestingly, we have also got this Mars in Aries making a sextile aspect to Pluto in Aquarius. So the sextile aspect is the nature of Venus. It is bringing our relationships and what we own and what we value into the conversation. And Pluto in Aquarius is fixed air. So our ideas around relationships, our ideas around the masculine and feminine coming into relation with one another are being blown wide open for our analysis. We are thinking a lot about what are the power dynamics, where does the power sit within my relationships, either romantically or within family relationships or friendships, and what are my social values? Do my social values still hold up now? Are they the same now as they have been over the last 20 years, for example, when Pluto was in Capricorn? Are they starting to change, or are they coming from a different kind of perspective? Okay, so now we are going to move on to horoscopes for this Aries new moon. Aries rising. This new moon in Aries is taking place in your first house of body, self-identity, the way that you meet the world. This new moon is a very personal beginning point. There is a new activation going on. You may well feel this within your own body, this sense of, I can't sit still, I need to move into the new. Taurus rising, all of this Aries new moon energy is taking place in your 12th house of the subconscious. Do you need to take the time to honor your own body, to honor your own ability to rest and play. And what does playfulness look like to you? Are you allowing your inner child to express itself? Do you need to sit with your subconscious and see what comes up and work with that fire? This is a time for alchemy for Taurus risings. Gemini rising, new moon in Aries is taking place in your 11th house of community. These are the groups that you're a part of. There is a new beginning going on here about where do I belong? That sense of belonging when it comes to society. What am I feeling passionately that I want to start right now? Do I want to be part of a new exercise team, for example, or a sports team? Cancer rising, there is a new beginning here at this new moon in Aries in your 10th house of career and public roles. This one is a very public new beginning for you. Where are you sharing passionately all of your new ideas with a sense of longevity? What are you in for the long haul, and what are you saying goodbye to in terms of I'm just not doing this anymore because it's not an authentic expression of what I want to offer in the world? Leo rising, this new moon in Aries is taking place in your 9th house of higher wisdom, beliefs, spirituality, astrology. It can also be long distance travel. There is a real joy here for Leo risings about showing up in the world with a sense of curiosity and innate enthusiasm to really explore the hidden depths of meaning. Perhaps new teachers will come into your life, and perhaps you begin this idea of wanting to learn more and lapping up the idea of sharing ideas amongst your own as a teacher yourself. Virgo rising, this new moon in Aries is taking place in your 8th house. This is the hidden realm. This is an area where we sit with our fears. It's a house of soul contracts and karmic bonds, and there is a new beginning forged in fire to do with your soul contracts. And so are there endings perhaps taking place to allow for the birth of the new? And are there ways that you can put a plan in place to allow yourself to really follow through with endings and new beginnings? Libra risings, this new moon in Aries is taking place in your 7th house. So whenever we get a new moon in our 7th house, this is much more connected to what's happening in our partner's lives, or a close friend's lives, a close compadre in our lives. We will see through the eyes of the other what it is like to birth something new and something expressive. And we may even feel inspired to bring some of that inspiring, expressive fire into our own lives, being inspired by these other people. This is watching other people really kind of take off and get into a new creative pursuit. Scorpio risings, this new moon in Aries is taking place in your 6th house of health and well-being and daily routines. It's time to get serious about really enjoying some form of physical movement on a regular basis, being really creative, maybe joining a dance class, and really using your childlike artistic expression to really start to enjoy some of those more mundane sides of life, like having to brush your teeth and make your bed every day. Sagittarius rising, this new moon in Aries is taking place in your 5th house of joy, creativity, and children. This is a great time to start dreaming up some new ideas of how is it that I have fun? What ways do I want to start to really enjoy myself? Perhaps you regularly walk in woodland, and that's beautiful, but now you really want something with a little bit more fire and enthusiasm. Maybe you want to take up a trampolining class. Maybe you want something with a lot more large movement, quicker movement, rapid activity moving into your house of fun and creativity. Capricorn rising, this one's taking place in your 4th house, a very private space. This is home, family, and soul tribe. This is the building that you live in, or the kind of container that you live in. And perhaps that container is starting to look like the wood burner. Where are you pouring your passions and your creativity into starting something new? Maybe this is a new decorating project, or a plan to go on a family holiday. Aquarius rising. This new moon in Aries is taking place in your third house of local neighborhood, communication, and siblings. Maybe you are striving out in your community, creating a real buzz around community culture. Maybe you are sharing more your ideas on social media. Maybe you are reading vivaciously. Maybe you're reading hot, steamy novels. Pisces rising, this new moon in Aries is taking place in your second house of income. This is a work house and a financial house. This is also your sense of self-worth and your things and your kind of your likes and dislikes. So there's a lot here for Pisces rising about starting a new routine that encourages more blood flow, that encourages more passion and enthusiasm to rise to the surface. Maybe you are moving into a new area with your work and you are putting 110% in. Just bear in mind that, is it going to be sustainable for the long term, or is this a kind of flash in the pan? Thanks so much for joining this new moon in Aries lunar forecast. It's an exciting, powerful, dynamic, manifesting, rich new moon for all of us this year. We are sitting on the knife edge of something brand new being birthed into the world. And also, just a side note to say, when we were looking at our new moon stories, we're looking at Aries, that whole sign house of Aries in our birth charts to see which life area is being activated. Check back to the horoscopes that I did just now for your rising sign, because that will put this new moon in the correct house placement for you and therefore show you which life areas are being activated. Also, bonus points if you want to dive deeper into this new moon archetype and how it's going to work out for you. We think about your own natal Mars sign. So say, for example, your new moon in Aries is in your 9th house, but then you've got a natal Mars in Taurus in your 10th house. Then we are going to connect those two house topics together to show a more rich, a more horoscopic point of view, which adds in that extra sense of making it unique to you. It's your own personal reading here. And if you need any help with that, please get in touch with me on Instagram. I'm Astrology Freya. You can also follow me here on YouTube. There's a whole selection of astrology readings that you can get over at my link bio, which is linked in my Instagram. And I'm also going to link it below this video. New reading alert. I just want to stop this video for a quick second to say that I have introduced a new astrology reading this week, which is a very affordable reading option. Pocket Astro is for you if you're looking for frequent astrological updates that are centered around your unique birth chart. This is a completely personalized audio reading that you receive either daily or weekly, depending on which option you choose. All of the information for that is over on my link bio, which I'll link below. These are audio readings that you can receive either to your Instagram or to your WhatsApp. Okay, thanks so much. Let's get back to the new moon in Aries video.